Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, a tale from the Middle East. Adapted by Jill Munton. Chapter 9. Marjana's Dance. Ali Baba smiled at Khoja Hussain and shook his hand. "You are very welcome in my house," he said warmly. "My son has told me all about you," he went on. "I know that you are an important silk merchant with a large shop in the town, and you are a good friend to my son. He is still a young man, and he has a lot to learn about the world. Older men like us need to guide the young ones." Khoja Hussain bowed his head. "Your son is a fine boy, sir. I always enjoy our meals and our walks together. But I'm sure you are a busy man, Ali Baba. I will go now and leave you and your family in peace." Ali Baba put his hand on the man's arm. "Please don't go yet," he said. "Stay for supper and we will get to know each other better. My servant Marjana is cooking a fat chicken. There will be enough for everyone. You, Khaled, Kasim's wife, my wife, and myself." "It is kind of you to invite me," replied Khoja Hussain. "But I have a big problem. I cannot eat any food with salt in it." When Ali Baba heard this, he frowned. What a strange thing to say. Ali Baba thought for a moment, then replied, "Well, that's all right. I will tell our servant girl not to use any salt in our supper." Then Ali Baba went into the kitchen and found Marjana. "We have a guest for supper this evening," he told her. "His name is Khoja Hussain, and he is an important silk merchant. He is Khaled's friend, too. He cannot eat salt, so you must not put any salt in the food. Please cook some extra vegetables, too. But remember not to put any salt on them." "Yes, master," replied Marjana. Then she stopped. "Who is this Khoja Hussain?" she thought. "Why doesn't he eat salt?" Then she remembered an old saying. If you are going to kill a man, you must eat no salt at his table. Suddenly, she felt very worried. "What is Khoja Hussain planning to do?" she asked herself. "Is my master Ali Baba in danger?" When Marjana finished cooking, she carried the plate of chicken to the table. As she put it down, she looked carefully at Khoja Hussain's face. He was explaining something to Ali Baba and his wife. "He may have a long black beard and a bald head," Marjana thought. "But I recognize that man. He is the leader of the thieves, the oil seller, and now a seller of silk. My master is in danger again. This man is planning to kill him tonight. I must think of a clever plan." Marjana went back to the kitchen and brought out a basket of bread and a dish of rice and vegetables. As she set them on the table, she looked at the guest again. Now he was talking to Khaled and Kasim's wife. Suddenly Marjana saw a dagger. It was hidden in the visitor's cloak. "He has tried to hide his dagger," thought Marjana. "But I can see it." As she served the rest of the meal, she thought more about her plan. When they finished eating the chicken, Ali Baba said, "Have some fruit. These peaches are very good." "Thank you," replied Khoja Hussain. The guest took a peach from the dish and sat back in his chair. He stretched out his long legs in front of him and smiled. "That was a delicious supper," he said to Marjana. "You are a very good cook. Tell me, what else can you do?" Now Marjana had her chance to carry out her plan. "I can dance, sir. Would you like me to dance while you relax after your supper?" "What do you say?" said Khoja Hussain, turning to Ali Baba. "Can Marjana dance for us?" Ali Baba smiled and nodded. He was pleased that his guest was enjoying the evening. "Certainly," he cried. "And we shall have some music too. Marjana can play the tambourine. Go and get ready, Marjana." "Yes, sir." Marjana went to her room. She dressed herself in a long silver skirt with a sparkling top. She put on a headdress with a veil across her face. Last of all, she put a silver belt round her waist. From her belt, she hung a sheath, and in the sheath Marjana placed a dagger. Then she picked up her tambourine and quickly left the room. "Here she is!" cried Ali Baba happily. "Now we shall have some fun." Marjana stopped in the doorway and bowed to everyone in the room. "Come in! Dance and play, Marjana!" Ali Baba shouted. "Dance and play! Let us see what our guest thinks of your dancing." Marjana beat a rhythm on the tambourine and began to dance. She stepped lightly round the room and smiled at the audience. Ali Baba and his guest clapped their hands, and Ali Baba's wife and Qasim's wife started to sing. Khaled stood by the window. He was smiling at Marjana. Then Marjana danced faster and faster. She seemed to fly. Her silver skirt and her veil twirled around her. She held the tambourine high above her head and shook it to make the bells ring. Then, with her other hand, she took the dagger out of the sheath. She sliced it through the air, the shiny silver blade flashing in the lamplight. She danced up to Ali Baba and pointed the dagger at her own chest, and then at her master's chest. She danced up to his wife, and then Qasim's wife, and then Khaled. She twisted and turned her dagger in the air as she danced. Next, she danced up to Khoja Hussain, and she pointed the dagger at him. Then she lowered the tambourine and held it out like a plate. Ali Baba laughed and threw a couple of gold coins into the tambourine. "You deserve it, Marjana," he cried. "You have entertained us all so well this evening." Marjana danced up to the two women again, and they put some coins in the tambourine too. Then it was Khaled's turn. The young man smiled as Marjana looked at him. He threw 3 gold coins into the tambourine. Finally, Marjana held out the tambourine to Khoja Hussain. The leader of the thieves smiled and put his hand inside his cloak to reach for his purse. At that moment, Marjana raised her dagger high in the air and, with all her strength, pushed it deep into his chest. Khoja Hussain fell back onto the sofa. Ali Baba and Khaled rushed to help him. Ali Baba put his hand up to the man's mouth to see if he was breathing. Then he held Khoja Hussain's wrist to see if his heart was still beating. He's not breathing, Majana, cried Ali Baba. And his heart has stopped. He's dead. You wicked, wicked girl. Why did you kill him? Then Majana reached into the dead man's cloak and pulled out his dagger. She held it out to Ali Baba. He didn't come here to visit you, she told him. He came here to kill you. I saved your life again, sir. He came to kill me? Ali Baba asked in amazement. Why? Why did my son's friend Khoja Hussain want to kill me? His name is not Khoja Hussain at all, Majana explained. He is the leader of the thieves. He has wanted to kill you for a long time. He is the oil seller who came here before, and he is a killer. The leader of the thieves? The thieves who killed my brother? But how did you know, Majana? Asked Ali Baba. How did you recognize him? When you told me he ate no salt, I became suspicious of him, Majana explained. I remembered the old saying, if you are going to kill a man, you must eat no salt at his table. So when I brought the chicken from the kitchen, I took a good look at him. I recognized his face, although he had shaved his head and his beard was false. And then I saw a dagger in his cloak. So you see, I was sure it was him. Then Ali Baba smiled at the servant girl. Majana, you have saved my life again, he said. You are a loyal, clever girl, and I will reward you. You will no longer be a servant girl. I would like you to marry my son and be my daughter-in-law. He turned to Khaled. That wicked man tricked us both, my son. First, he marked our door and our window frame with chalk so he could come back and kill me. Next, he pretended to be an oil seller, but there were murderers with swords inside his oil jars. Then, he told you he was a silk merchant. He made friends with you so that he could get closer to me. This wonderful girl, Majana, has saved our family 3 times. Will you marry her? Khaled smiled. I will marry Majana, father, if she wishes to marry me, he answered. She is loyal and clever, as you say. She is beautiful too. See how her eyes flash, and her black hair shines in the light of the lamp. So Khaled knelt down in front of Majana and held her hand. Will you marry me? He asked her. I will, she replied. Then Majana looked up and smiled at her new family.